my dad taught us that we are from a samurai family, so you gotta be tough. Okay, I believe that. Don't I stay tough?
This is Arlene Watkins, a volunteer interviewer for the Kizuna Project. It is August 4th, 2024. We are in Tucson, Arizona with Harley Fujimoto. Harley, do we have permission to record this interview?
Yes.
Let's start with a few simple questions just for the record. When and where were you born?
I was born in 1922 in Lebanon, Colorado.
Where did you grow up, and what did your family do for a living?
I grew up mostly I started in Longmont, and after that I lived mostly in Alt and Pierce, Colorado, on the farm.
Sorry.
Yeah, my family we were doing farming, just growing row crop, growing things like sugar beets and cabbage, onion. But at that time, you had to raise sugar beets because at that time we were so poor, we had to borrow the money. If you wanted to borrow the money, the banks would not lend you any money unless you raised sugar beets. The reason for that was the sugar beets, we used to get quite a bit of hail, and the sugar beets get hail, that would come right back up. That's the reason why the banks know for sure that they were going to get something after a hailstorm.
How many children did your family have?
I have 7 children, 4 boys, 3 girls.
Describe the community you grew up in.
It was a pretty nice community because it was mostly like a Scandinavian people were the farmers, and the Germans were pretty good because during the World War II, those Germans treated us pretty good. But they never did anything with the Germans or Italians during World War II because they couldn't tell them apart from the rest of the people.
What kind of values did your parents teach you?
Yeah, that was more important thing. Respect your elders and pay attention and learn. And also same time, I guess they wanted, because they come up the hard way too. So they say that there's a lot of hungry people out there. So if you have quite a few things, share them with the hungry people. That's what we basically did. But actually, on the farm where we lived, we didn't run across the hungry people like you do in the city. So all you do is hear about them. That's about it.
Tell me about kendo. How did those values help you in kendo?
I love kendo, and you had to be strong enough that you're going to get beat up, but you're going to have to be able to handle pain. Forget the pain, because you're going to have pain. You know that when you start. But it was something that, I don't know, I really liked that. And my uncle was a teacher, and he taught us that. And I did pretty good. I know my brother, he used to cry just because he got hit. And I wasn't because my dad taught us. I believe that. Don't I stayed tough? I get a lot of bruises and stuff, but that didn't hurt. It hurt when I got hit, but afterwards didn't get hurt. Just like my hands got puffed up because it got hit quite a bit. Then we got swollen, especially this side because I was right-handed. So this side didn't get hit, but this side did. I got hit on the leg, got hit on the neck, in the arms. But it was fun. I loved it. I would probably still do kendo today if they would let me.
After you were drafted, where did the military first send you?
And first sent me took basic training, and they sent me. I took basic training in Florida. That's where I went there. I can't remember how long I was there. I probably was there about a couple of months before they shipped me out. But they didn't actually ship me out as a group. The Japanese teacher from the military language school, they came out to interview each and every one of us. And with the interview, they figured who would go to the military school and who wouldn't go. That's how I ended up in the language school in Minnesota. I had a pretty good time in Minnesota. They were Minnesota, basically Scandinavian people, and they treated me real good.
You went to military intelligence language school and became an interpreter. What was language school like?
Language school, we had to get up early in the morning, and the way we got to the school, we had to march there, just like soldiers march to their school. So then they divided us. I guess there were about 25 of us in each class that were divided. So then we had a teacher for each one of our class. And the first thing at oration they told us was that we're going to try to teach you what is equivalent to 4 to 6 years of college in Japan. And we said, well, so we raised our hands and said, whoa. So the instructor said, wait a minute. What we're going to do, we're going to put you into 10 persons will become a team. And the one person that's going to be pretty much at the head of the class is going to be a Kyubei. He's a person that went, parents sent to Japan for an education, and he was more fluent in the Japanese language and reading in the Japanese language than we were, as you say. So if we captured any documents, anything else, it had to be in Japanese. So this guy, that Kyubei, he would read it and explain to us what it said. We'd break it down in English, and then send it on to headquarters. And he told us to be real strict and don't let anybody tell you how to do what you're doing, because we were taught that we had how to interpret and translate. He was taught those things. Those what you follow those rules. So he said, don't let anybody tell you what to do. And that come out later in my life. It'll come out later, probably. I'll talk about that later.
What was your first job after the military?
I went back to the farm for about a year and a half. After that, then my wife, she couldn't get along with my mother. And so my wife, she couldn't take it anymore. She says, Harley, I'm leaving. If you want to leave with me, you can. If you don't, you can stay here. I said, well, I'm married after all. I got to go with her. So I said, no, I'll go with you. And that's how I stayed with her. That's how I got sort of separated from my family because of that. Yeah, my dad didn't care about my mother. I guess what she wanted my wife to sit and talk with her, but she couldn't talk Japanese very well. So I guess that's the reason why she didn't. She pretty much rather went to the corner and sit there. And my mother didn't like that. That's how come I ended up leaving the family.
So what did you do in your first job in Denver?
First job I went to is I went to work in a place called where they wash and package spinach, and you see a spinach in the grocery store. And then we had made salad out of cabbage, and carrots was shredded that, and then bagged it. And then when I first went there, that's what I did was I did the grinding and shredding of the vegetables. Then after that, I became the leader of the group, and all of the workers there, you wouldn't believe it, were all Issei ladies. And Issei, there was only one Issei man. And that was good. And then the guy that owned the place is Harry Wise. He was a German. And then they had one guy who was in charge. So later on, I became in charge of the group. And then after that, I sort of left for a better paying job.
What was that job?
I went to work. I went to work for a Italian couple that packed and shipped vegetables that was grown in Colorado. Mostly it was like lettuce, cabbage, carrots, things like that that was shipped, and that I worked in a warehouse there. Then after that, I thought, well, this doesn't pay too much, that'll last the summertime job. So in the meantime, the Japanese employment people called Yamato Employment, they called me and said, Harley, there's an opening in a grocery store, would you like to have that job? Well, I said, I don't know. But I said, I'll go there and interview and see what it's all about. I went there. His name was Oscar Olson. And the reason why they wanted to talk to a Japanese was because the guy that was a produce person there, he was doing the produce, but after the war ended, all the Japanese people that wanted to go back to the West Coast went back to the West Coast. So he wouldn't have an employee. So I guess this guy did a good job. So the owner, he wanted to have a Japanese guy. And so after I went and talked to him, I thought, well, if I get a pay increase if I go there, because he told me it was union. I said, doesn't matter if it's union or not, if it pays more, that's the job I want. So I took the job. And he told me, come here on a weekend, Friday and Saturday, and see what what are you doing, what you have to do? I said, remember, I'm not going to pay you for those 2 days. I said, no problem. So when I went back there on a Monday, everything was off the shelf. So I got to think, should I stay or shouldn't I stay? Oh, give it a try. And everything, they took it, at that time, we didn't have any elevator at that store, so everything, they had to climb the stairs, bring everything up and down the stairs. And that's how I started. So I just, in 2 days, I had pretty much had to learn the whole thing. But I got along okay. It came out okay. And I worked for 5 years. Then I got to thinking, I'm not getting any place fast. I was just a worker, I was the only one in that vegetable department anyhow. There's no place for me to go. So I went to King Soopers and asked them for a job. He said, we don't have an opening now, but if an opening come up, we'll call you. So actually, in the meantime, what they did, they called a check on me. They called me the next day, said, somebody quit, there's an opening. He said, come to work. So I can't. I said, why? I gotta give my employer at least 2 weeks notice. So I give my employer 2 weeks notice. My employer turned out and walked off. He was mad at me. He wouldn't talk to me for the 2 weeks notice I was there. And after a while, later on, I met him, but I can't remember where I met him, but he apologized to me, saying why he didn't talk to me. I said, why didn't you talk to me? He said, I was mad at you because you quit. That's how I went to work for King Soopers.
Eventually, you went to work for the union as a union organizer, where you won the Hubert Humphrey Colorado Layperson of the Year Award. Tell us about your job as the union.
Well, the most important thing is about union work. You had to convince the employees that belonging to the union, and as a group, you've got the strength to ask your employer to pay you more. So that's what the union did. They got your benefits, not only wages, but instead of wages, your benefits actually would amount to more than your wages. Because if you got sick, it's going to cost you money. You needed the money. So that's what we did.
Can you
Organizer, that's what you had to convince people who was not union member as to what the union could do for you. Because as a group, you have the strength to make demands of your employer. But I said, you don't make demands that's going to break the company, because then you won't have a job anyhow. So you had to work hard to make sure the employer makes the job, and the only thing you can do is ask your employer for a part of that profit. So that was my theory. A lot of people thought joining a union was a free ride. I said, there's no such a thing as a free ride. I said, you had to work.
Can you tell me about these pictures
Yes,
and
I can.
awards?
In the meantime, when I worked for the union, I lectured at the colleges and the high schools there in Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. That was part of my job. That I went to union representative to explain what the unions do. And one time, which was strange, because my strategy was different from other union people. So there's one guy from the Cherry Creek High School, that was more, and Cherry Creek was sort of an elite type of high school. So that's where the rich people went. So this is how rich people think that he was going to be a boss or something. So I told him, and everything I told him, I know you people, once you graduate, you're going to get a job in that company, and you want to get at that top, become manager for people. So I said, remember that. When you become management, you're going to have to know more about the union because you're going to be confronted with that, and you're going to have to go by the rules that your employer set with the union. And this one guy, after the interview, he come up and told me, he said, I was going to really take you on, but because of what you said, I shut my mouth, he said.
Harley, can you tell us about these?
This was an award, Hubert Humphrey started this, and it happened every year. The labor people picked a person that they would consider the labor leader of the year. And that's how come, I guess the unions, their executive board and their officers, they chose me that particular year to be the labor leader of the year. That's how come I got the Humphrey Award. And that's when I got, this is Pat Schroeder. She was a House of Representative from the United States government. She attended my whole thing. And the other one was Roy Romer. Roy Romer was the Colorado governor, and he attended that invitation to my accepting this award. The mayor, he could not attend because he was out of the state, but the mayor sent me a letter. Wow, this is heavy. I didn't realize it was that heavy.
Harley, you've had a long and varied life. Looking back, do you have any words of wisdom or anything you'd like to say to future generations?
I don't have any wisdom. Most important thing is respect your elders. That's the most important thing. Next thing is work hard and the best you can. Don't slough off. And especially with the union people, don't think that because you join a union, it's going to be free ride. You're going to have to work hard. And the most important thing is work hard. Make sure that your company makes a profit. Then you, as a union member, could ask your employer, you want part of that profit. And that's always that.
Can you, I believe it was 2010 that you received this. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. About 14,000, I think. Pretty close to that. Nieces got this award. And those that went, this is just during the World War II, and yeah, the Nieces like us, after the war ended, they didn't get it. Just as up was then during the time that the war was on. And we got it. I was surprised that we got it. And we had this ceremony in Washington, D.C. And I wasn't going to go because I had to fly there, and I didn't have the money. But my niece, she got me a place, she got me a plane fare, and got me a plane fare and got me a room. So I drove to Houston, and from there I went with my niece to Washington, D.C. And we were there 4 or 5 days. So in the meantime, 4 or 5 days, we've got to see different things in Washington. But the most important thing I saw in the ocean was that the memorial for all the concentration camps that they had. They had memorial there for each camp, separate. That was set up. And we had one in Colorado, that was in the southeast in Colorado. The one that we were really surprised at was because it was a white American family that lived just across the border from Colorado. They came over there and took care of the monument.
Your wife's family was in a camp, is that right?
No. No, they weren't in camp. They evacuated. They came through Wyoming, and they came and lived on a farmer, and they did farm work. And especially when they came over, they didn't have a farm to farm, so they started out as sharecropper. And then they lived on a farm where they were able to raise like cabbage and onions and stuff like that.
Oh.
So that's what they did.
Well,
Yeah.
Harley, thank
They
you.
evacuated, they self-evacuated. All they did is pack your suitcase and leave. Anything you could take with you, they had to leave behind. They couldn't, if they couldn't sell it, they had to leave behind. They no guarantee it would be there when they got back. And that was the saddest part that I know of. Anything that they happened during the war, when they went back, they didn't have it. But before machine, or it doesn't matter what it wasn't there anymore. Because the white people took over. Took over the farms, machinery, you name it. But the government didn't do anything about it. That's the saddest part of it all is. Our government should have stepped in and said that you give them back their farm or give them back their machinery. But it didn't happen.
Well, Harley, thank you for talking with us today.
All right.
Thank you. This is the end of the interview.
Thank you for the time that you people took to do the interview. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about my lifetime.